Welcome to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast, where Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, talk all about how to get certified and practice professionally as a nurse life coach. Hello, and welcome back to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast. I'm still getting used to saying that out loud because I want to say Nurse Coach Life Academy, and that also sounds rad, but Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast. It's Shelby here today, solo. Can you tell? I am excited to be dropping in with all of you this morning, diving a little deeper on some of the content that we have inside the course. And, we're really taking it back to basics in the beginning, just to refresh all of our current listeners, to refresh your memory on some of the foundational things, that relate to coaching. And if you're new to our space, to provide context on how this works, how coaching works, how life coaching works, how nurse coaching works. And I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago that was not certified. They were a nurse, but they were not certified. And they really wanted to get started in their business first and then learn how to nurse coach. And I was very honest with them of full transparency. I don't know everybody's correct path. However, if I gave you a paid client that paid you $3,000 right now, would you be ready? Would you know what to do? And they're like, yeah, just tell them what to do. And I was like, red flag. We can't, there's so much more to just telling people what to do in the world of coaching. There is a time and a place where giving strict, do this, then this is called for. But usually coaching is a collaborative process. We are following the client's lead, meeting them where they're at, or else it all kind of falls flat, to be honest. And if you have ever been in a group container of mine, ever, my mentorship group, the preceptorship group, anything like that, I won't ever shut up about the stages of change, the trans-theoretical model of change. Of course, this is not Shelby's own model, right? This has been around since the 70s and early 80s. Some really wonderful psychologists back in the day brewed it up. James Prochaska and Carlo Di Clemente, in case you were curious. But this model is not linear, but it explains how people go through the change process, of specifically behavioral change. So it's often applied to health psychology, to wellness, but could really be applicable anywhere to where behavior change is occurring. And for those of you who've been around, you probably know exactly what I'm going to say next. But again, for our new coaches in this space here, there's technically 5 official stages with 2 extra stages that I'll mention at the end. But when you are working with a client, when you sit down with him for the very first time, our assessment ears are on, our curious ears are on. We're going to be asking a lot of questions. I think that in the beginning, coaches probably talk more of just asking for clarification and better understanding. And don't be afraid to do that. It doesn't make you look dumb. It makes you look like you're listening and you don't know this person, likely in the capacity that you need to know them. And if you've never had a relationship before, or, they're a referral, then taking your time here to know where your client is at can be really, really helpful. So there are 5 stages, right? The pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and then the 2 extra ones, relapse and termination. So we'll start with the first 5. Pre-contemplation is exactly what it sounds like. In this stage, people are usually not aware of their problematic behavior. They don't see a need for change. They might even resist or be defensive if someone was to come up to them and point it out. They often underestimate the risks or the consequences of their actions. This is just someone that is completely not ready to change yet. They might not have a reason, they might lack the awareness, but I'm sure as I'm reading that off, maybe somebody comes to mind and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But moving on to the contemplation stage, is during this stage, individuals become aware that they might need to change and they start seriously considering it. They might be weighing out the pros and the cons. They're thinking, they're reflecting. People in this stage have some mixed feelings about change itself. They might be a little ambivalent. They might see the need for change, but it might be too hard or might be too complicated, or they don't think they can do it. There's this yo-yoing that happens of they might pep talk themselves and then talk themselves out of it. So this can be a pretty frustrating stage to witness. I've been in this stage quite a bit, to where you just are oscillating back and forth. And usually it's because like the catalyst moment hasn't happened yet, the point of no return. So being in this stage can be highly uncomfortable, right? And again, I want to highlight before we get too much farther that this stage is not, or these stages aren't linear. People can get to stage 5 and then come back to stage 2. Like it's really important to remember that we aren't unlocking a video game level and then you're just fine from there on out to work the next stage. Sometimes it works like that and sometimes it doesn't. And it's not necessarily a reflection as you as the coach if your client is jumping between stages, but it could be helpful to point out to them as well. All right, third stage, preparation. In this stage, individuals are committed. They're in to making the change in the near future. They may start taking small steps towards change, like putting out a quit date or seeking information or resources to support this change. This stage involves some planning, some goal setting, some like actually not just having a goal, but like thinking through how I'm going to make this happen. In the action stage, this is where people actually modify their behavior. They make concrete and visible changes in their lives. It requires effort, time, and energy, but they have begun. They are on the journey. They are pursuing the thing, and it's rocky and it's messy and it's imperfect and it's all the things. And I think that during the action stage, this is where the relapse can come into play here. Relapses are common during the action stage, and a lot of times with clients of like when people relapse or when they quit or when they get off task or they don't do anything for a week, then it's a really easy invitation to just like swing all the way back to the beginning. And where you as a coach can come in is just really normalize this phase of like, yeah, this is normal. This is happens to everybody when they are going through change, when they are going through transformation. This is oscillation. It doesn't necessarily mean anything's gone wrong. We can pause, we can learn, let's reflect. What are we going to do moving forward? How do we get back on this horse? It can be really helpful conversation here. Maintenance is the next stage after this. So after making the desired changes, people enter, the maintenance phase. Now it's focusing on sustaining this new behavior and preventing relapse as much as possible. Maintenance can last for an extended period of time, and individuals still need like support during this phase. I think a lot of clients I've worked with in the past, or clients of clients that I've worked with in the past, they get to this maintenance phase and they just want to like pull the rug of support out from underneath them. And I think that framing it in we're doing maintenance to sustain this new goal, to sustain this new lifestyle, to sustain this new behavior, and still having some support to make that happen makes you more successful rather than pulling out the rug of support from underneath you and then you have to fly solo and then relapse and then we slide back and then the snowball gets really big. So I think that having those conversations with your clients can be really helpful. Like, hey, I'm sensing that we're kind of like entering in maintenance phase now. Maybe the goal shifts a little bit. Like, how do we sustain this new shift? How do we sustain going to the gym 3 times a week? It's not like we're not so much focused on the how anymore. How do we make this happen? It's like, okay, you did it. How do we make this last long term? Again, relapse, super just common. And again, I mentioned this, but like the feelings of failure are really big here, and like shame and frustration and disappointment and guilt can like run rampant. And I want to be careful to like let people have their experience, right? If they are uncomfortable, let them be uncomfortable. Do not try to fix or problem solve like immediately, because I think that the discomfort is good. And make sure that you are not trying to comfort your client by saying, this is normal, don't worry, we'll figure it out, it's okay, to make you comfortable. A lot of times coaches can become uncomfortable when their clients are uncomfortable, which then like flips us into problem solving mode and logistics mode. How do I calm you down so that I cannot experience this discomfort? And I want you guys to be aware of this here of like, if your client is upset, if they have this sense of failure, if all those things, like validate them, validate those feelings. Feelings of all ways, shapes, and forms are allowed here. And then when the time is right, and you'll sense it, is when we begin like to offer a different perspective here. And this can look like, for example, like, I didn't go to the gym at all last week. I feel so bad. I feel so guilty. Now it's making me not even want to go. Like, I made my trainer mad and they won't text me back and all this stuff, right? And I encourage you to like let someone be there for a minute and be like, all right, I hear you. I understand. What do you think is trying to happen here? What do you think, or what is happening for you? How can we learn from this experience? How can we grow from this experience of like, yeah, you didn't go to the gym last week and that sucks. And then we broke a promise to ourselves, but like, where is the space for you to lean in here and hold space for them? Put the new perspective goggles like around their face and then let them fully put them on. And then the last stage to your team is termination. That sounds really dramatic. Termination doesn't sound great, but this is a point where the change becomes integrated. It becomes embodied, right? And this could take years. This could take months. This is likely not weeks or days, but this is over a long period of time, similar to how you brush your teeth in the morning. Brushing my teeth twice a day is just who I am as a person. I don't need coaching around that, right? There will come a time where support is no longer necessary, support is no longer needed. Then it's time to, like, they're out. Termination just means that they are like complete in this stage for this goal, for this behavioral modification. Like, they are complete. It is a part of who they are now. The chances of relapse are minimal. And even if it does happen, they have the tools to get back on board. This is where we all hope to be. And I want to set realistic time expectations that it is not always like at the end of a 3-month coaching container that someone's ready for termination, right? It might be the case that after a 6-month coaching container, the work you and your client are doing is complete, and then they move on to a different type of coach or a different type of healer or a different type of work to continue along the path, right? You do not have to be every solution to every problem. And as you coach more and more and more, you will find the problems that you're really good at helping people solve. And you get really confident at being like, yeah, our work here together is complete. These are things that I could see that could be supportive next, but like really encouraging people to follow their own inner compass is important here too. All right, team. This is another short and sweetie for me. I hope that this was helpful, maybe a little refresher. Maybe you're hearing this for the very first time. And if so, I'm so privileged to be able to bring you this information. This is something I reference all the time on my coaching calls, because whenever, even when I'm coaching people in business or around coaching, being able to like clue in on like, where are we at here? Is this person like needing to vent? Are they wanting to do anything? Do they have a plan to take action? Most people that I work with in coaching are in the action taking phase. I think that that's where coaching can, that contemplative into action, action into maintenance can be really supportive for a person to hire a coach in. Someone in a pre-contemplative stage is not ready for coaching, like they're not ready, and that's okay. It's not your job to make them ready. It's not your job to point out all the gaps that you see or the problems that you see. That's not your job as the coach. I like to think of coaching as like a Sherpa on the side of a mountain of like, yeah, you're at this really tricky part on the hike. Let me help you. I know this path really well. I got all the tools. You're here. I'm here. We can conquer this part together. And there might be another Sherpa that I hand you off to up the mountain, or we might climb to the whole peak together. But if someone is at the bottom of the mountain and they're just like, I'm not hiking up the mountain, it's not your job to go down there and get them. Okay. It's tempting, not the role of the coach to go down there and play hero and drag somebody up the mountain. All right, team. Let me know what resonated for you. I really enjoy doing these episodes. I'm excited to bring you more of them. If you are not a nurse coach yet, check out our Facebook group, the Nurse Life Coach Academy Facebook. We would love to have you in there, answer your questions, get you on the road to certification, and we'll see you in a few weeks.